Experiencing what happened today, I think it is necessary for us freshmen to stick together, develop ourselves, and avoid being bullied by them. So I, Xiao Yan, plan to establish a new force here that only belongs to us. Are you willing to join? After hearing Xiao Yan's words, many freshmen first fell into a brief silence, and then I don't know who took the lead in saying, Boss Xiao Yan stands up for us, so naturally we must follow Boss Xiao Yan. Under such words, many freshmen who were still hesitant, thinking of the scene just now, shouted in unison. All of us freshmen, only the Boss Xiao Yan is following the lead. After hearing these words, Xiao Yan said with a slight smile, Okay, in that case, I, Xiao Yan, am here to announce that starting from today, Panmen will be officially established. As Xiao Yan finished speaking, countless freshmen cheered. After hearing these words, the old students all changed their expressions and hesitated. Someone pointed angrily at Xiao Yan and others and shouted, Xiao Yan, you are breaking the rules of the inner courtyard. But Xiao Yan didn't care about this at all. Before he could take action, the group of freshmen who had joined forces immediately surrounded him. Many old students who saw this scene immediately changed their expressions. Finally, they simply dragged the group of old students who had been defeated by Xiao Yan, said a few harsh words, and ran away in despair. The establishment of Panmen, this explosive news, swept through the entire inner courtyard in a very short period of time. Xiao Yan had previously defeated the newcomers at the gate of the freshman dormitory area to ask for tribute fees. Things were also reported directly. For a time, the two names Panmen and Xiao Yan reached their peak. In the inner courtyard of Canaan College. After knowing the news, many forces showed angry faces. Xiao Yan's actions are simply cutting off their lifeblood. The inner courtyard of Canaan College has a 5-year academic system. There are thousands of students in it, and there are also many large and small forces. A group of them come in every year. New students will also leave a group of old students. These new students who have entered the college are an important factor for the major forces in the inner court to replenish fresh blood. However, now that Xiao Yan has established the Pan sect and brought almost all the freshmen under his command, they will not be able to get anything this year. Any additions? As a result, even some forces with smaller numbers and older students were on the verge of destruction. Many old students in the inner courtyard hated Xiao Yan with it. However, they only dare to think about it. Xiao Yan's ability to easily defeat an old Douling student and a large number of great Dou masters was not what they imagined in the early stage of Douling. It was an existence that many of them could not afford to offend, on the other hand, because there was no conflict between Xiao Yan and Bai Shan in this life. The original Bai Shan's cousin led the Bai gang to come to find trouble did not happen. On the contrary, the two parties were in contact, and the relationship was pretty good. Sooner, Wu Hao, Hu Jia, and others were also greatly surprised after learning what Xiao Yan had done. Then, after hesitating in Xiao Yan's words, they joined in one after another. After all, among the younger generation of peers, Xiao Yan is the only one who can convince Wu Hao and Hu Jia, two talented geniuses. As for Sooner, no matter what Xiao Yan does, she will choose to support it without hesitation. However, Sooner once asked Xiao Yan privately why he wanted to support this force named Panmen. When Xiao Yan recalled his last life, what he was thinking in his heart was once again said with some judgment. It means that our new force is as solid as a rock, stable in the inner courtyard filled with strong men. After the establishment of Panmen, many new students had backbones, and many issues were born as a result. Xiao Yan simply gave up other ideas and dealt with the emergence of these forces together. It took about 3 days to complete. After all these matters were dealt with, Xiao Yan took Sooner, Hu Jia, and Wu Hao and walked towards the Black Tower in his memory. I am the north of the inner courtyard of Canaan College. There is a sunken terrain. Within that terrain, there is an extremely majestic and huge black tower. It is buried deep in the ground. Only a section of the tower spire and a dark tower are exposed on the ground. The entrance is just a small spire, which is several stories high, and around the Tianfenqi refining tower, there is also a faint spatial distortion, which is exactly the same as in the Sutra Pavilion. Obviously, this place is extremely important to the inner courtyard. What a strange place. What is this place doing? Hu Jiao looked at the black tower with a bit of interest and spoke with a bit of eagerness to try. The dark entrance was not open at this moment. In the open space on the side, there were hundreds of students from the inner courtyard of Canaan Academy, sitting there cross-legged, waiting quietly. I don't know, but judging from the looks of those old students, they should be good things. Wu Hao shook his head. He was always taciturn, but his curiosity was aroused by this place, and he slowly spoke. Sooner nodded gently, with a faint chuckle, pointing to the ripples in space that unconsciously appeared beside the black tower, and said softly, "There is a space blockade that only Dou Zun-level experts can set up." Obviously, his importance is far from being as simple as we thought. The three of them had a short discussion again, and although their words were not loud, they could not be hidden. Instead, they attracted the attention of some old students who came later, but after looking at a few people, the old students wanted to say something, but they seemed to remember something. An inexplicable smile appeared on the corners of their mouths. With a playful smile, they looked at a few people, lowering their heads and whispering from time to time. Whisper a few words. Xiao Yan, of course, knew what they were thinking. He clapped his hands and said lightly with a smile that only his group could hear, "This sky-burning qi refining tower is where fire energy is consumed. I won't go into details. You will all understand after entering. And remember to be careful. When you enter the Tianfin Qi refining tower for the first time, you must be extremely cautious." After hearing Xiao Yan's eloquent talk, several people did not doubt that he was there. Although they were surprised that Xiao Yan could find out the information about the Tianfin Qi refining tower in a short period of time, they just pushed the matter away. On Baishan's body. Baishan has a cousin who has been practicing in the inner courtyard for many years, which is really convenient. As time goes by, more and more students gather. When there were more than 200 people in total, a melodious bell suddenly rang, and then a figure wearing the robe of an inner dean suddenly appeared in front of the dark entrance. He looked around at the crowd and said faintly. He opened his mouth and said, "Open the tower." After the old voice fell, followed by a heavy creaking sound, a ripple suddenly came from the dark entrance, and a faint hot breath came directly from the entrance of the black tower, making the surrounding environment. The temperature has increased slightly. The group of old students in the inner courtyard all exited from their trance state the moment the door of Tianfin Qi refining tower opened. They suddenly opened their eyes, stood up suddenly, and stepped out suddenly. They only heard the sound of breaking through the air, and then the overwhelming number of figures rushed toward the door. Just like the cafeteria in a hotel when the bell rings, countless students swarm in, and it's completely dark. Looking at the surging figure, Xiao Yan also had a touch of nostalgia in his eyes. Then he waved his hand and said with a slight smile, "Remember what I just said, okay, let's go in quickly." Several people gathered together and followed the surging flow of people into the Tianfin Qi refining tower. They passed through the dark passage and soon stepped onto the ground. The surrounding temperature suddenly rose. Before several people could take a breath, a burning sensation suddenly rose up in their hearts. Everyone except Xiao Yan and Suner were shocked. They suddenly sat cross-legged on the ground. Their faces turned red, and they began to practice. Stand up. The burning feeling naturally emerged in Xiao Yan's heart, but it was just a wisp of the heart fire of the fallen heart flame. When faced with Xiao Yan's currently unearthed core fire and sea heart flame's strange fire, at that time, it was nothing at all and was easily suppressed. As for Suner, there was also a hint of surprise on her face, but a ray of gold flashed unconsciously in her eyes, and then the fire in her heart suddenly disappeared. Xiao Yan, who was watching this scene, naturally knew that this was why. This is. With a hint of doubt, Suner looked at Xiao Yan, and a voice as clear as a silver bell appeared and asked. After hearing this, Xiao Yan did not show off, but chuckled and said, "It's just the inner fire that tempers fighting spirit. This is the secret of Tianfin Qi refining tower."
Hu Jia
And Wu Hao on the side, because of Xiao Yan's reminder, had already made preparations before. Even though the inner fire was a bit scary for people who came into contact with them for the first time, after 2 or 3 minutes, they suppressed it and then stood up. They can feel that their fighting spirit has been improved and purified by several points after suppressing and refining the inner fire. Haha, there are many training rooms in the Tianfin Qi refining tower. Except for the people on the strong list, the other training rooms are not fixed. You can exchange fire energy for time to practice in them. Seeing the two of them wake up, Xiao Yan explained the internal layout of the Tianfin Qi refining tower to the three of them. After hearing Xiao Yan's words, the confusion in the eyes of Sun'er and the others was relieved. Their eyes also showed excitement, and they wanted to find a training room immediately and start practicing. Seeing their eagerness to try, Xiao Yan also reminded with a bit of a smile, "Remember to find a training room with the word advanced written on it. The effect will be better." After Xiao Yan's reminder, Wu Hao and Hu Jia couldn't wait and left directly. As for Xiao Yan, he took Sun'er and walked around the Tianfin Qi refining tower. "Brother Xiao Yan, aren't you going to practice?" Although Sun'er was a little confused, she still followed Xiao Yan's actions, while Xiao Yan said quietly with a slight smile in a voice that only the two of them could hear, "I know a good place to practice. Although it is only a high-level training room, the effect is better than other training rooms of the same level. Let's go there." Hearing this, Sun'er was slightly startled at first, then the corners of his mouth slightly raised, and he felt a little moved in his heart. Xiao Yan, who has memories of his previous life, is also quite familiar with the inside of the Tianfin Qi refining tower. He took Sun'er to the training room in his memory with ease. After arranging Sun'er to practice in it, Xiao Yan looked around for a while and then walked unhurriedly towards the center of the Tianfin Qi refining tower. The space of Tianfin Qi refining tower is much larger than it looks from the outside. The first floor alone can accommodate 500 people practicing at the same time. In the circularly distributed space, there are buildings of different sizes. Training room. Passing through it with ease, and after turning the last corner, Xiao Yan arrived at his destination. He saw a bottomless black hole in the center of the Qi refining tower that day, above the ground. Without any hesitation, Xiao Yan took steps and walked slowly towards the black hole. When he came to the edge of the black hole and slowly looked down, he could clearly feel that the temperature here was far higher than that of the black hole. Other parts of the Tianfin Qi refining tower are much hotter. This place is like a place that continuously supplies energy to the Tianfin Qi refining tower, separating a ray of soul power, deliberately carrying a little aura of strange fire. Xiao Yan continued to descend the soul power along the black hole. When it reached a certain level, suddenly, a sudden change occurred. Under Xiao Yan's perception, a burning feeling suddenly appeared, and the surrounding space began to distort. Seeing that he had succeeded in seducing, Xiao Yan immediately put away the ray of soul power and made a look of being at a loss. Looks like standing next to a black hole. "What's going on? Back away." An old voice shouted suddenly with shock and anger, and then a dry palm appeared on Xiao Yan's shoulder, pulling him back. The old figure who thought he was wearing the clothes of the dean of Canaan College appeared in front of Xiao Yan, staring at the black hole in front of him with a solemn expression, and in Xiao Yan's field of vision, a huge invisible fire python, with terrifying temperature and terrifying momentum, suddenly jumped out of the black hole. Fizz! Seeing this scene, Yao Lao's voice, with a bit of shock and surprise, suddenly sounded in Xiao Yan's ears. How is it possible? How could this fallen heart flame give birth to such a clear spiritual intelligence? Yao Lao's heart was full of worry and astonishment, and he had made miscalculations. He knew that it would be 2 levels of difficulty to devour the alien fire with, and without intelligence. For a moment, he also felt a difficulty that I am overconfident and not prepared enough. I still need to think long-term. Just when Yao Lao wanted to remind Xiao Yan, he heard Xiao Yan speak calmly in his heart and said bluntly, "Teacher, I plan to take away this fallen heart flame after a while." In his tone, he was not at all affected by the fact that the fallen heart flames had given birth to spiritual intelligence, and he was full of confidence. Hearing Xiao Yan's confident words, Yao Lao was also slightly startled. He thought of all the things Xiao Yan had experienced before and also thought of his magical and strange dreams. He didn't ask. Since Xiao Yan himself was completely confident and sure, Yao Lao had no need to stop him. The journey of cultivation is ultimately something you need to make on your own, relying entirely on teachers, elders, and others. No matter how outstanding your talent is, the upper limit of your achievements will not be high, to be honest. He himself has never practiced Finju, a wonderful technique that Yao Lao got from a magical ruins. Yao Lao's understanding of it is nothing but what is written in black and white on Finju. Most of them are speculation. If Xiao Yan hadn't completely swallowed up the Qinglian Earth core fire in front of him and used the unique fire-devouring and evolving characteristics of Burning Ju to successfully evolve from the Yellow Level Intermediate to the Xian Level Intermediate, I'm afraid Yao Lao wouldn't have been able to do so. Even if he is not confident enough, he will not believe that this technique can accommodate a variety of strange fires. Strange fire is a treasure of heaven and earth in Dou Qi continent. It is sought after by countless alchemists, but countless people have failed. But now Xiao Yan has two kinds of strange fires in his body. In fact, there will soon be a chance to swallow the third strange fire. Even though Yao Lao was well informed, he had to shake his head and secretly thought about Xiao Yan's luck. After comforting Yao Lao, Xiao Yan said that he would swallow the fallen heart flame in the future. Xiao Yan did not care what the silent Yao Lao was thinking, but focused his attention on the invisible fire python that I in the previous life. When I saw it for the first time, its strength was only that of a great Dou master, and its soul power was not that strong. Under its pressure, he was like an ant. If it weren't for the protection of the seal inside the Yutian Finchi refining tower, he might have been hunted long ago. But now Xiao Yan, in terms of true strength, can already hammer this invisible fire python. So naturally, he will not be afraid of it, on the contrary. When I saw the invisible fire python that was constantly twisting above the black hole, with a murderous intent in its inverted triangular pupils, I felt a bit warm and nostalgic on the side. The elder on duty who blocked Xiao Yan behind him had an extremely solemn face. He kept protecting Xiao Yan as he retreated. When his eyes played with the twisted space, a touch of fear flashed through him from time to time. Obviously, he vaguely knew what existed below the black hole. After the two of them walked out of a certain distance, the invisible fire python suddenly let out a sharp explosion and wanted to be knocked out. However, after it left the black hole for a certain distance, only an invisible space prison appeared out of thin air. It locked in, although the invisible fire python struggled very much and even kept spraying the fallen heart flame, trying to burn the space prison. It had no effect at all. After several useless struggles, he had to retreat, and the temperature suddenly disappeared, letting the elder on duty. He was also relieved. Then, he turned back to Xiao Yan with a somewhat stern expression, rolled up his sleeves, and began to prepare to preach. However, where he didn't notice, a faint ray of fused alien fire constructed a mark, quietly covering the previous space prison that appeared out of thin air. Inadvertently, the power of space on it a little bit scattered. What's going on? Didn't I tell you that this is a forbidden area, and you are not allowed to come near it? The elder on duty shouted in a low voice with an unkind expression, while Xiao Yan laughed in his heart and pretended to be innocent and said, "Elder, I am a new student, so I don't know." The elder on duty suddenly became speechless. After entering the Tianfin Qi refining tower for the first time, Xiao Yan also stopped for a few days. He did not go there every day. Instead, he entered the Tianfin Qi refining tower after a while to deal with Panmen matters and practice fighting skills. Tower once. However, every time he entered the Tianfin Qi refining tower, Xiao Yan would secretly find an opportunity to use his fusion fire to quietly dissolve a portion of the space power that imprisoned the fallen heart flame. Hu Jia and Wu Hao, who had gone to Tianfin Qi refining tower to practice, felt as if they were poisoned. They had to run there every day and wished they could soak in it all day long. Although it was a bit torturous in there, the Dou Qi cultivation, the improvement above, made them feel itchy one after another. The two of them also made breakthroughs. As for Sun'er, after going to Tianfin Qi refining tower several times, she never went in again. Instead, She accompanied Xiao Yan to deal with Pan Men affairs. Xiao Yan knew that although the Tianfengqi refining tower was a good thing for accelerating cultivation, to Suner, who was born in an ancient tribe, this seemingly precious thing was nothing. Therefore, he readily agreed, and the two of them spent a period of time inseparable within the academy. During the development of Pan Men, there were many forces that united to look for trouble. Because Xiao Yan integrated almost all the new students in this generation, they could not absorb fresh blood at all. However, for these troublesome forces, Xiao Yan was easily defeated without any hesitation. 1 month later, Pan Men has established a firm foothold in the inner courtyard. Xiao Yan's name has been resounding throughout the inner courtyard, and he even occupies a seat on the strong list. However, Xiao Yan does not pay too much attention to these things. Although the strong list seats symbolize the training room with fixed seats in the Tianfengqi refining tower, for Xiao Yan today, using the training room to practice is still not enough. It would be more practical to swallow the strange fire. On the contrary, during this period of time, Xiao Yan did not forget his purpose. Instead, he went to find some of his old friends in the inner courtyard according to the places where they appeared in his memory. Lin Yan, Lu Qing, Han Yu, Lin Xiuya, and others. Xiao Yan did not miss any of them during this month. Xiao Yan had become quite familiar with them, and several people did not regard Xiao Yan as a pure new student, because Xiao Yan appeared just in time when a few people were looking for the earth core tempering body milk and showed a combat power close to the peak of Douling. The few people successfully found the heavenly materials and earth from the hands of a 5th-level magic beast. We also established a friendship directly. In addition, Xiao Yan also refined a large number of ice spirit pills and started auctioning them as he did in his previous life. Because the ice spirit pills can remove the fire poison accumulated in the Tianfengqi refining tower for a long time, many students in the inner courtyard, and has been sought after by countless people in order to establish his position and prevent the Yao gang from coming to cause trouble like in his previous life. Xiao Yan directly refined the 5th-grade elixir Dou Ling Dan in front of many people. This move directly scared many people. You must know that even Elder Hua, who is the best at refining medicine in the inner courtyard, is only a 5th-grade alchemist. After Xiao Yan showed his skill in refining medicine, it caused a sensation not only among the students, but also among many elders. Although the status of a 5th-grade alchemist is similar to that of a strong Dou Wang, no matter who you choose, they will choose a 5th-grade alchemist instead of a strong Dou Wang. It is true that the energy that the former can bring is too huge. You must know that most of the elders in the inner courtyard of Canaan Academy are only at the Dou Wang level. Now a student who has just entered the inner courtyard for more than a month has a higher status than them all, which has surprised many people. I can't help but sigh that the waves behind push the waves ahead. But even so, they didn't say much. Instead, they tried their best to establish a good relationship with Xiao Yan. He was able to practice alchemy to such an extent at such a young age. His achievements in the future are simply unlimited. He is not a fool. Will choose to have a good relationship with Xiao Yan. Not only was he powerful in strength, but he also excelled in the art of refining medicine. Xiao Yan had finally defeated the group of people in the inner courtyard who were hostile to him, as well as the old students who had criticized Pan Men. Taking advantage of the opportunity of the elders' visit, Xiao Yan also took the opportunity to make a subtle hint, saying that he also wanted to refine elixirs, but he lacked a lot of medicinal materials and wanted to apply for admission to the inner courtyard Medicinal Material Management Library. Although the Medicinal Material Management Library in the inner courtyard is very precious and is even considered the lifeblood of the elders in the medicine refining department, when Xiao Yan applied, he did not go through too many twists and turns and just agreed to help a few elders. After refining some elixirs, the application was approved as a place where precious medicinal materials are stored in the inner courtyard. The Medicinal Material Management Warehouse is also quite tightly guarded. Not only does Elder Hao, a powerful fighter, sit in charge of it, but there are also a dozen instructors patrolling it 24 hours a day. This kind of area, general students are not allowed to enter. However, Xiao Yan was very popular in the inner courtyard. The group of instructors who had been patrolling here for a long time were just a little surprised when they saw Xiao Yan coming here, and some even helped lead the way. Arriving at the gate of the medicinal material management warehouse, looking at the familiar building, and seeing the elder still holding the list of grades in front of him, Xiao Yan said with a faint smile, "Elder Hao, let me get the medicinal materials." Seeing Xiao Yan, Elder Hao also chuckled. He was naturally very clear about Xiao Yan's affairs. It was he who agreed to give Xiao Yan a 5th-grade spirit fighting pill at the expense of helping him refine it. Xiao Yan opened up the rights to the medicinal material management library. Haha, it doesn't matter. Remember not to move around after you go in, and only take the medicinal materials you need. There are energy fluctuations on it. Whatever you do can be detected. Listening to Elder Hao's instructions, Xiao Yan couldn't help but nod. He had come to the medicinal material management warehouse more than once in his previous life, so he was very clear about these rules, but he still had to do some work to save face. At the same time, Xiao Yan also felt a sense of expectation in his heart. In his last life, he met his close friend who was like a sister at this time. In this life, he would meet again and see each other again. Even with Xiao Yan's state of mind, it was also, there are some waves. Open the door. Following Elder Hao's low shout, he picked up the magic weapon in his hand. Suddenly, the door of the medicinal material management warehouse was slowly opened, revealing a spacious room wrapped in a faint fluorescent light. Go in, remember what I just said. Elder Hao waved his hand and let Xiao Yan in. Xiao Yan bowed his hand, returned the greeting, and walked in impatiently. The inner walls of the entire room are wrapped in a layer of milky white jade, and even the floor under the feet is made of extremely neat pieces of white jade without any gaps, and the faint fluorescence is coming from emitted from these white jade, and in each of the white jade stands, there are all kinds of strange shapes. At a glance, you can tell that they belong to extremely rare medicinal materials standing quietly in them, and there are faint medicinal fragrances of different flavors floating out. Following the memories of his previous life, Xiao Yan wandered around among these white jade tables. Many of the medicinal materials were extremely valuable to the outside world, but for Xiao Yan today, they were almost meaningless. He only valued a few of them, just a few types. After walking for nearly 10 minutes and passing through several corridors, Xiao Yan came to the corridor in his memory. Among them, a young figure appeared out of thin air, holding a piece of medicinal materials in his hand. Breathed at it was a little girl who looked to be only 12 or 13 years old. She was dressed in simple white clothes, with long lavender hair hanging down casually around her waist. Her cheeks were white and tender, and her skin was fair. At this moment, her back was turned to Xiao Yan, and she did not notice at all that a person appeared behind her. Looking at the white jade wall in front of her, she seemed to be hesitating about something. Looking at this figure, the corners of Xiao Yan's mouth raised, and he smiled unconsciously. Then he quietly walked inside and came behind the little girl. After hesitating for a long time, the little girl stretched out her hand and grabbed it toward the counter. Inside the counter, there was an exquisite jade plate. On the jade plate, a palm-sized fruit was placed on it. This fruit was quite strange. Half is red and half is white. Even from a distance and blocked by white jade, Xiao Yan can feel the energy of different attributes contained in it. Dragon Beard Ice Fire Fruit, which is Xiao Yan's goal for this trip and one of the main ingredients of the Earth Spirit Pill, is now being targeted by this pretty little girl. Just when the little girl reached out and was about to grab the medicine, another hand suddenly appeared, grabbing the strange fruit one step ahead of her, and then took it out, leaving the little girl to grab it. The little girl was slightly startled at first, then reacted. She raised her head with a bit of anger and looked back. However, because of her pink cheeks and big black eyes, she looked very cute and not scary at all. You want to steal my stuff? The little girl in white moved her small mouth, and her childish voice, clear and melodious like a child, sounded in the room with a hint of indifference. Xiao Yan could even hear a cold, murderous intention in it. However, Xiao Yan was not timid at all about the little girl's performance. Instead, he smiled and stretched out his hand, pressing it on the little girl's head. Regardless of the other person's cold gaze, he just started rubbing it, and wiped the soft and beautiful hair. He rubbed his hair until it was messy, and then said with a bit of sigh, "Haven't seen you for a long time. Oh, by the way, don't eat the medicinal materials raw. It's difficult to digest. How about I help you practice it?"